Don't turn your back on the wolf pack. You might wind up in a body bag. Alright, guys. Hey, yo. 1 minute. And I'm going to step on that thing if I leave it on the floor, so let's pick that up. I want to talk about something. I want to talk about the lie physical media sold us, because here's something that I hear so often in physical media collector communities, and it is something that is recurring. It's that you own your media if you go physical media. Now, this is not the truest thing. I mean, yes, you have a physical representation of the disc, you have a physical representation of a movie you love, but you don't own the content. And theoretically, if you were to rip that to like make MKV or whatever, technically you're breaching copyright because you do not own the content. Now, this is where it all becomes a bit complicated. A lot of reviewers and a lot of review channels will be looking at like doing reviews and trailer reviews and all this sort of stuff and releases and frame by frame. Now, I have not done a lot of that. I have not went through and did frame by frame by frame. Let's compare the 4K to the DVD and Blu-rays. I don't do that because, as I said, I don't own my content. I own my content that I put on YouTube, but I don't own my content here. And that's the same with even the covers. Like when I show a cover, yes, I own the disc, and I own the ability to take a Blu-ray or DVD out of here. And, you know, I think I've got 2 different versions of the movie. I didn't know that. Oh, I put my old Blu-ray in there for some reason. But, you know, I don't own that artwork. I don't own the artwork. I don't own the movie. That belongs to Fox, you know, 20th Century or 20th Century Studios as it's now known. This is what I'm talking about. The physical media aspect of the lie that was sold to us is that you own your content. Now, it is safer than streaming. It is safer than, like, if something can be taken off you without notice. It is true. You could have it and studios can't really mess with the version you like. I mean, if you like Terminator 2, I mean, definitely a lot of people don't like this release. A lot of people do not like it. And, you know, people do like this movie as well, so I need to give it credit. Some people do like it, some people don't. I am one of the people who don't like it. There's just too much that have changed. A lot of digital noise reduction, and also some colours have changed. That being said, I don't know if Cameron approved this release. Just on another thing. So, when we look at physical media, we're constantly told that, you know, this is a collect once and then it's done for the next 50 odd years. That's not always the case either, because what happens is that DVDs, Blu-rays, 4Ks, VHS tapes, they degrade over time. And that is something that happens a lot. I mean, while you might see, oh, DVDs from the early 2000s or even the late 1900s, as the kids call it. Hey, I'm a product of the 1900s. So, you know, a lot of people say, oh, they still work. CDs from the 80s still work. So, like, what are we worried about? I mean, stuff still works. But what about the Warner Brothers Blu-rays and HD DVDs of the 2000s? You know, HD DVD were wearing out on Warner Brothers releases, as were the Blu-rays. There are some Blu-rays now from Warner Brothers in that period that don't work anymore. Now, given a lot of Blu-rays got it right, a lot of places like Sony, like Fox, like all these other studios got it right, Disney example. But when we look at it, this is not a collect once, done forever sort of thing. As we've seen recently, they are re-releasing things like Jurassic Park because Dolby Vision is now in this, and now you can get this version, but with Dolby Vision. And because the DNR was so extensive on this, they went back and taken that DNR out and rescanned everything. And yes, this is an older version, but as I said in other videos, how much is it really? Like, I mean, if you have HDR10 and you're happy with HDR10, I mean, are you really going to care that much about, oh, I could have a little bit more light and color if I get Dolby Vision's version? Now, I am a big fan of Own Your Media. I am a big fan of Own Your Media. I'm a really big fan. I'm a big advocate for collecting physical media. But I just don't agree with this lie that's constantly told to us of, you own your media. You own it. You own that TV show. I own Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on blah. I can't even get it out of there. I own Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but you don't really own the content on that disc. You don't own it. It's essentially a long-term rental in a lot of ways. If you look at physical media, it's a long-term rental. You buy it once, it's a bigger upfront price than a streaming service is, but it's an upfront rental. You pay it, and then once the disc eventually degrades or fails at a certain point, that's when the rental ends. But the studios are not saying we are signing over our copyright to you, so you don't really own your physical media. I'm just saying this is the reality. And I see a lot of YouTube channels saying, "Oh, I'm gonna show what this movie looks like on 4K. I'm gonna play a bit on my TV and show it." Now, a lot of those places get copyright strikes because they don't own their collections. Do you get what I'm saying? And then we all know how copyright works. We all know how copyright works. You're seeing a lot of gaming channels go through this same thing. Gameplays are getting taken down because if you talk badly about a game, or if you don't agree with it, or even if it's just like, hey, we don't want to own a copyright, we don't want people talking about our game in a way that encourages people to watch this instead of buying it. So you're seeing a lot of that now in terms of the gaming space. And that's what I mean, like, you don't really own what you're buying. And sometimes, in terms of gaming, since we're on the topic of gaming, let's go to the gaming section. Let's go over here, and I'm going to look at, let's see, we'll look at, I don't know, what's something here that has a bit of an upgrade thing to it. Let's say you own, here we go, perfect example. Let's say you own Spider-Man, this version of Spider-Man. And in the new versions, they've changed the character model. And they've got a remastered version of the first one, where the character model is the same as number 2. But let's say you actually preferred the one that looked a bit more like Andrew Garfield than it does like Tom Holland now. This is where it becomes a bit of a problem. Because when we start looking at changes in the media, changes in what you're looking at, changes in terms of, you know, gaming, if you're collecting games, if you're a big game collector, what's to say that this disc, you can't play it without a day one patch, but the day one patch has changed so much that it's not even the game that's on the disc anymore. And this is why I think physical media is great for ownership, but you don't own it. And they can force you to upgrade a game before you're allowed to play it. So this is the argument I'm making today. You don't own your collection. This is a lie that was taught to us. This is the lie of physical media. You don't own it. You don't own the content on that disc. You don't even own the disc, really. I mean, realistically, you don't really own the disc. Yes, you bought it, you own a physical representation to watch that movie when you want. But you don't have rights to share it. You don't have rights to even, like, really. They just let this go because they don't really care. But if they wanted to really come crack down on this, they would say, oh, you showed a restricted artwork from our movie, that's copyright infringement. And it does happen. It has happened on YouTube in the past. Look at Nintendo. Why don't I talk about Nintendo as much on this channel? Because I know they have a reputation of that sort of stuff. This is the argument I'm making. You don't really own the disc even. I mean, look at the artwork on the disc. We'll do it because they're not really going to care about it, I don't believe. Leave me alone. But I don't really own the artwork on that disc. I don't own the content on that disc. I don't own the movie. What I own is a physical representation and the right to rent this long term and have a physical representation on my shelf. I don't own this movie. I don't own the right to bring others over and show it to them. I mean, I could, but I don't own that movie. I don't own the right to do that. I'm not allowed to publicly screen it, you know? This is not you owning your movie. This is you long-term renting that movie. And this is the license you enter into, because it is a lot similar to licensing. You are licensing that movie. You don't own it. It's licensing. You know? This is the argument I'm making. So the biggest thing about physical media, and I'm going to bring it back grounded now because I want to stick up for physical media. What it does is it gives you your preferred version. So let's say you didn't like the version of Terminator 2. You can go back and collect the Blu-ray version that is still the official version from the studio at an earlier time. Or even Star Wars. You know, people obviously turn towards Star Wars. Let's see if I've got it over off camera. I probably do. I'll go and grab one of them. I don't know where it is. It's probably somewhere here. And I can't see it, so I'm going to come back to the camera. But you know, this is the idea I'm talking about. And just because you own the physical media, just because you own this representation of a release and you've put your hard-earned money into it, consider it a long-term rental. There's a lot of stuff you can't do with it. That's the life that physical media taught us, is that you own it, you can do whatever you want with it, rip it to hard drives. You can't even really rip it to a hard drive legally. I mean, people do it unofficially, the studios don't enforce it, they don't really care. But under copyright law, you can't actually be doing that. And that's why I'm very reluctant to talk about using Make MKV or going to do Handbrake or whatever. Or setting up a Plex server or a Jellyfin server or whatever the kids are using these days. I'm very reluctant to talk about that because that insinuates I'm encouraging people to do that or encouraging people to go to the Bay, you know? I am not going to encourage that. But what I'm saying is that you don't own the content on your discs and it is enforceable. Like, they just don't enforce it. But imagine if there is a world where they say, you know what? We don't really agree with the physical media collectors ripping everything to make MKV. We don't really agree with that. We're going to sue MKV and make them take down that service. And you think it's unprecedented? Like, they will never do that. Look at the Internet Archive. Look at the Wayback Machine. Look what happened with that. Look at the archive of what happens when a studio or something says, you know what, all our content is being copyright infringed. We're going to go and get the Internet Archive taken down. It can happen. Look at all the lost media from early YouTube because it was never archived. But then if you were to archive it in a correct way back in those days, it could be argued that it's copyright infringement. It's just unfortunate. But also, you know, it's the lie of physical media as well. Like, you don't own this content. You don't own any of it. You own a long-term rental that you can watch whenever you want in a private setting. That's what you own. You don't own the media. You don't own the disc. Theoretically, if there was something on that disc that they said, oh, we don't believe that's right, you don't have the right to even talk about like a problem that was on that disc. Like, look at San Andreas, GTA San Andreas. A lot of people know there was a thing called the hot coffee mod, and that was on the PC version, I believe. It may have also been on the PS2 version, I don't remember. But I know that the hot coffee mod was a big thing around the time. They even made a whole movie around it with Bill Paxton and Daniel Radcliffe. And that's another piece of lost media. The BBC made it and then Rockstar sued and now you can't find that anywhere. But the hot coffee mod was a version of GTA San Andreas that allowed you to have a mini game of sorts. I can't talk about it on YouTube, but that's lost media. Well, it's still out there. It's still available. There's still discs that have it and you can still get it. But if you talk about it, if you screen record gameplay and try to post it, Rockstar will enforce what they want to enforce because that was not in the official game. You own the disc, you own a disc that contains that, but you don't have the right to talk about it or repost it or any of that. Now, this is conflicting with fair use, I understand, like a lot of people say, but fair use. Yes, fair use is definitely in play here. Fair dealing is what we call it in Australia. Like, if you're reporting on it for news purposes, you can get away with it. But a lot of people do it as gameplay reactions, public comment. But that is not the same as reviewing reviewing for news purposes. Like, here's the new game, it was released today, here's the lineup at the store, people going to buy it, here's how many downloads were in the first 24 hours. You're not doing a news report, you're reacting to it. And this is the big difference. This is why the news can do it, but this is why a lot of YouTubers get flagged for the exact same thing. It's not the same. What do you guys think about all this? What do you guys really think about it? Because I'm really at this point now where I'm kind of sick of hearing you own your media. Kind of sick of people not understanding what physical media actually is. And I've said it a couple of times as well. I own my media. That's a misconception. I'm even brainwashed into thinking it because it's here. It's like, I got Independence Day. There it is. I own it. You don't own it. What you own is a long-term rental that you can watch whenever you want, that you cannot publicly screen without a license. But this is basically a license to watch this movie as it sits on the disc, as you prefer. And yes, you can buy pre-owned and you still get that same license. Because the studio's been paid once, so people have resold it and then people buy that release. It's not the same. Let me know what you think. And where is the toothpick gone? It's went somewhere here. And that's enough, chico. You know, Razor Ramon is here, and he's going to show you that. Say hello to the bad guy.